The handshake type of environment from 40 years ago is actually coming back in a different fashion because we need to know who we're dealing with, having them get to know you personally, and understanding the value both on a personal basis as well as for the business of the trust environment and how that affects almost any business, I would say. Most gifts, they're good up front, but over time they lose their impact. So having something where people will be continually interacting with it over decades is an amazing ROI, and it actually has an increasing impact because of the nature of it.
If you were to go back 10 years, what advice would you give to your younger self?
Oh boy.
Welcome to today's episode of the Sask Entrepreneurs Podcast. I'm really excited to have Dean on our show here today. Dean is from Top of Mind Gifts, and I've known Dean for several years now. He is a network master. And he is basically someone who I really look up to when it comes to expanding your network, because I strongly believe that your network is your net worth. So Dean, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. Pleasure to be here.
Excellent. So Dean, why don't we start off with a little bit about your journey as to how you ended up where you are today. And if you can talk a little bit about yourself, that would be great.
Yeah, for sure. Well, born and raised here in Saskatoon, married, couple kids. Started out in university in engineering physics, which of course is a natural networking type of environment. Got into sales outside of right after school, didn't actually ever get into engineering. And then I've kind of grown from there. I found out, I guess I'm an entrepreneur by heart. Maybe should have been in commerce or something instead. But I've gone through sales, started with Cutco, then went into other types of sales, started my own business, my first one in financial services. And then I've done a number of ones since, leading up to now with Top of Mind Gifts.
Excellent. So I had the opportunity to learn about your business, Top of Mind Gifts, and was really impressed by your methodology and your approach on the importance of gifting when it comes to establishing relationships and being memorable, just when it comes to having a transaction with a client. Can you speak a little bit on that as to why you decided to pursue this business model and what exactly it is that that helps your business accomplish for other clients?
Yeah, I think one of the things I've noticed is that it's kind of been about a 20, 30-year cycle where the technology wave came in and everything went from in-person to emails to social media to other things. And in my opinion, we've got to the point now so far that you don't know what's real anymore, right. AI and stuff. So the business, the referral, the handshake type of environment from 40 years ago is actually coming back in a different fashion because we need to know who we're dealing with, and the sources of mass information are oftentimes too much for people to sift through. So personal relationships, developing, strengthening those, and the word of mouth side of business has come back full, and that involves a number of different things. It's not just outreach, and it's not just spamming people. It's developing a relationship, having them get to know you personally, and understanding the value both on a personal basis as well as for the business of the trust environment and how that affects almost any business, I would say.
Right. And I find that often we are so much immersed in a digital world these days that those touch points are something that don't happen anymore, right? So it's important to, especially be memorable in a marketplace and to have those touch points where you are actually sending something physical that you can be remembered by, something that maybe lasts a lifetime, right?
Yeah.
I know for my company, we had those knives done, which were really nice. And I think I found that to be very nice when it came to us gifting to some of our clients, and they still call us about it. I mean, it's just something that we found was quite a memorable gift. But talk about the item that is normally provided as part of this transaction, and why you feel it is important to have a certain type of item when you provide these kinds of gifts, and how does it impact the relationship?
Yeah, when I do presentations, I oftentimes label them as strategic gifting, and people, I don't think, understand or put as much thought into their gift or strategy as they could, simply because it's not necessarily top of mind or on the hot burner or anything like that. So I'll go buy something nice. Hopefully they like it. They'll remember me. And the reality is that isn't the case. If you certainly I talk about quality. I think giving low quality or unthoughtful gifts are actually more of a damager than a help, but also having higher quality ones, things that again reflect a relationship, that show somebody why they want to do business with you and why you want to do business with them. Those are the kind of things that will translate into tangible results. So Cutco, I mentioned that before. Yeah. That is, I kind of grew up in my sales role selling that. And it's a really high-end line of kitchen knives. And so some people look at it and go, oh, it's flashy, people that like knives, whatever. But for me, there's a number of other factors that come into play. One, from a business gifting standpoint, you have to find something, we're all busy. So to be individually going out and shopping and customizing person by person is very time consuming. Very, very impressive, but very time consuming. So the trade-off is finding something that's really thoughtful, but something you don't have to think about all the time. So Cutco's able to be systemized into something like that. They're big enough to produce any quantities. So for me, that's important to be able to scale with clients and provide whatever their needs are. It's high-end, so it's something that everybody likes and appreciates. And being knives, it's something everybody does use. I don't think I've found somebody who still rips food apart with their hands or anything.
Right.
And again, that's strategic because it's something that's in the kitchen. If you talk to any realtor, they'll tell you that the most commonly used room in the house is the kitchen. So if you're a business and you're investing in a relationship, not creating a business expense by buying a gift, but investing in the relationship, finding a gift that's going to be there, like you said, not just 3 months, 3 weeks from now, the gift baskets, Christmas is coming, they're consumed and gone, but something that's going to last, that's important. Something that is also interacted with. Most gifts, they're good up front, but over time they lose their value, but also their impact. So having something where people will be continually interacting with it over, in this case, Cutco's guaranteed forever, so over years and decades, is an amazing ROI, and it actually has an impact year after year down the road. Maybe even you could say increasing impact because of the nature of it. And we've got lots of stories to show that too. I don't know how many people will come up to you a year or 2 or 10 years later and say, I remember that gift basket from right. 2024. But we have stories of people that come up and will be like, hey, I still got your knife, I'm using it. So those are the strategic things that a lot of people don't think about, but that actually have the biggest importance and the biggest impact long term.
So, it's a lifelong gift, right? And that's what makes it so special. It's interesting that you started this business during COVID. Mm-hmm. Let's talk a bit about that. Why during that period, and what made you start this business?
Well, I've had Cutco, loved it my whole life. I've done different types of sales, and I'm very passionate about something I can believe in and be right. confident in. I am a horrible salesperson for something I can't believe in. So having a product that I could stand behind was important. And having used that for the last 30 years, I can definitely attest to that. The logic side of it made sense, all the things I just mentioned. If you actually try and think about a gift, whatever it may be, and see if it checks off all those boxes. Is it going to last forever? Is it something they're going to use all the time? Mm-hmm. Those are the triggers that create top of mind awareness. And for a lot of people, I think having a client that likes them is equated to top of mind. And that's actually not the case. There's a lot of businesses that have a lot of clients that like them and they say they would refer them. But the reality is that you have about a 7-second window to be remembered when somebody asks your client for a referral. So if you're not top of mind, if you're not able to be referred in that 7 seconds, they're not going to go home and look you up. They're not going to find your information and get back to that other person. We're in a kind of a in the moment type of world right now. So you need to be truly top of mind. And to achieve that, different stats are out there, but they say about 36, 37 touches per year.
Right.
So that's almost one a week, organic touches, not social media posts every day or anything like that. And again, if you come back to, well, what can I give somebody that will have that kind of interaction? It's very difficult to find things that meet that, which is why we've gone to Cutco. I think what we're trying to deliver is on the relationships, but how we do that is through Cutco.
Okay, interesting. With regards to building your business and promoting your brand, because when you start off a new business, nobody knows about your business.
Yeah.
And it can be a little bit challenging to get your name out there, right? Now, one of the things that I really admire about you is that you have a very powerful network of contacts, right? I mean, you've been working at it for years and you've been part of BNI and many other networking groups.
Yep.
How has that impacted in helping you grow your business?
Well, you can never know too many people. And one of the neatest or most exciting things that I've had experienced over the last even year, I guess every year it'll be more powerful, but is finding people that need other people that have no idea who they are. I more and more stories of people where I do one-to-one meetings, I network, find, introduce weekly. And so the number of people that I know, not on a really personal basis, but just know of even, is in the hundreds, probably thousands by now. And there's a surprising number of times where I'll be talking to one person and something will come up and they say, oh, I wish I could talk to somebody that provides this, or this is a pain point. And the ability for me to say, you know what, I know somebody that can help you with that, and put those two people together, that's very gratifying. And that comes from the networking side of it. So that's what I've, I guess, developed a passion for. And I'm also not afraid to kind of dig in. So there's a lot of groups and a lot of people that I've ended up talking to and being exposed to simply from reaching out. And there's a lot of people similarly that I talk to now that have no idea of all the different opportunities. And one of the things I enjoy doing is sharing those with them. I actually just this past week created a networking document of my own just to send people to say, you know what, if you are looking to network, here's a bunch of list of places and companies and groups and everything else that I network with. Feel free to contact them and look out. And so many people don't even know that those kind of options or opportunities are out there.
Interesting. So let's make this podcast into a networking crash course.
Sure.
We haven't planned for this, but
Okay.
I want to make sure that the listeners find value from the content and from this podcast. So if you were to give a crash course on networking 101,
Yeah.
what would be the top, 3 things that they should be focusing on to build their network if they're just starting out?
Well, I would say you do have to put a little bit of thought into it. We all only have so many hours in the day. Right. So the mass, I'm just going to go talk to everybody anywhere, is not going to be possible for most people. The second thing is when you're at an event, a lot of people, do I've got to get my card in everybody's hands and I've got to grab everything. And I suppose for some people that may work for some industries, but for the most part, like the gifting, networking should be strategic. So you want to do a little bit of research. You want to know who's going to be there. Why are people there? And if you can, and you see a list, even identify people that you want to connect with specifically. Another point on that is that you have 2 ears and 1 mouth. Use them in proportion. A lot of people have heard that before. So effective networking is a lot less about telling people about yourself as it is to listening to them tell you. We love to talk about ourselves. So if you provide an outlet for people to talk about themselves, you'll leave more of an impact than if you try and talk to them. And it also, I'm very fond of the nature of reciprocity. If you let somebody talk for a while, there's almost an obligation that they'll come back with and say, indirectly, thanks for that. By the way, tell me what you do too. It generates some curiosity, which is what we all want. It's just be patient. You have to wait for that. And you never know. There's groups, there's, I guess, people that you would never think are the kind of people that you want to meet or benefit from knowing. And you never know who those people are. Sometimes it can be the most innocent conversations that turn into the biggest success or results. And a real good example of that stands out is it wasn't myself, but a gentleman was telling me about a networking event that he went to, and there was a young lady that was kind of quiet and off to the side, not really mingling or whatever. And you could tell it wasn't her thing. And so he went over and talked to her and, just got to know her a little bit more. And turns out that she is the daughter of the CEO of a company that he wanted to get to know. And there were lots of people hankering at that CEO's, I want to know you, I want to get your card, I want to set up a meeting and so on. But guess who got the meeting?
Right.
The guy who spent time with his daughter and left an impact. So strategic, genuine, you want to be yourself. There's no point trying to pretend to be somebody else. If it's relationship based, they have to know you and like you and want to do business for who you are.
Right.
I'm just kind of rambling. I guess that's why I do well networking. I talk to everybody and I never stop. And then not being afraid to go out and talk to people. Another, just cut me off whenever here, but a couple of the basic sales things. Know your pitch, know your elevator pitch. I mean, it's standard basic sales, but yet most people don't. And if somebody asks you what you do, know what you do. And I don't just mean in general. I mean, specifically spend some time working out what exactly it is you do, what message you want to convey, and memorize it over and over and over. Again, it should be top of mind. It should be something that if somebody asks you, you're not selling them, you're not pitching them, but you want to convey in a very short period of time what you do so that it comes across confidently and it's not something nobody likes to listen to people go, it doesn't convey the right kind of message on several levels. So I would say for new people especially, identify, boil down what you want to convey and make sure that it's mastered, and then know who you want to convey it to and seek them out.
I find that pitch is extremely important. If you are to be someone who's memorable, who they remember afterwards, and make sure that you are able to connect with them at a deeper level, you have to make sure your pitch is really good. So can I put you on the spot and ask you what your pitch is when you introduce yourself to yourself?
Absolutely. I have no pitch. Just kidding. No, I mean, my 20-second, again, keep it short and sweet, is I help businesses connect and develop relationships with their clients and improve top of mind awareness for increased referrals and client and employee retention.
Excellent. That's great. And I like the plug with the top of mind there, because obviously your business is top of mind gifts, right?
Absolutely. And that wasn't accidental.
Right. Excellent. So with regards to promoting your business, obviously you started during COVID and you've had this network that you were able to tap into and you've been working on, creating these relationships. How have you found promoting your business, whether it's online, offline, that has worked really well for your brand?
Well, actually, I'm going to back up a step. I didn't have a huge network when I started this business. Okay. I have people I know and everything else, but the previous business didn't really transfer over the clientele. So I built the network that I have now over the last few years, and I've learned along the way. I've made mistakes. I've probably lost good contacts for lack of knowing what to say or how to do things. I'm pretty optimistic. I'm always thinking the best, and sometimes you have to take that with a little grain of salt. But for me, I wanted to reach out. I've always told people I'm fortunate in that I don't have in my mind a competitor or competition on the product side. My competition, my challenge is awareness. Mm-hmm. So how do you beat awareness? Well, you just get out there and get in front of people. And so I joined groups like BNI. I've recently joined a group called H7. There's a new connector community. I've joined a group in San Francisco that's a small 50-person group, but I got introduced to one of them. They said, hey, we've got some great people. Why don't you come out? So I did. Nice. And now I've sought out those kind of things. And now I'm actually getting people coming to me saying, how did you hear about that? Or where did you hear about that? And it's fun to be able to say, here's the link, go check them out, enjoy. And so many, even like BNI, I'll mention specifically, there is a huge opportunity for international networking, or Canada, US, and so on, that nobody knows about. And every time I tell them what I'm doing and what's out there, the mastermind groups, the business to business, the AI, you name it, there are specifically targeted groups that are working in those areas, and yet nobody knows about them. Nobody's really promoting them effectively. So one of my biggest things nowadays, my biggest gives, I guess, is just spreading information, making people aware, and I wouldn't say showing them how to network. I don't think of myself in that capacity. Just sharing what I've done, how I've done it, and authentically just giving the information away. I'm not looking for anything from it. And I find that it sounds cliche. I mean, everybody says I have no interest in it. Giving all that kind of stuff, I do it for other people. But if you're honest with yourself on a very deep level, very few people can get to that point of saying, I really don't expect anything back. I'm doing this to help you out. A lot of people think they do, and I'm not saying it's not intentional, but to get to the point where you enjoy giving something with no expectation of return, and ironically, the return that comes from that, because human nature, we can sense when people are being genuine or not. And I've had a lot of conversations with people who will bring up the same person from different networks. So I'll come back to a certain person and say, this person is a giver. They know everybody. They're willing to help out, and in maybe it's not surprisingly, they get business from all the different sectors because people like and want to do business with them, and know, like, and trust. I mean, that's your basics for. Yeah.
Know, like, and trust. Yes, the rules for doing business and establishing a relationship there. So when it comes to promoting your business, obviously when you started the company, nobody knew about it, but you were starting to build your network. How did you, and what kind of activities did you perform to get your brand known and target your audience?
Well, a large part then and still today is individual one-on-one networking. I'm a very logical person, so it would make sense to me that if I just present the facts, that people would naturally see the light and become clients and so on. But the reality is that you have to build a relationship. You have to have somebody's genuine, I guess, interest or attention. And something that I always have a problem with is I take for granted the fact that I think about this all the time, every day. I've got more stuff I've forgotten than anybody knows about my specific business, and other people don't have that. So sometimes going right back to the basics of, this is what I do on a very fundamental level. And the reason I'm mentioning that is to convey that you have to put in the time, you have to talk to people, you have to do the face-to-face. The surface level marketing and networking doesn't typically do much. So building my business was getting out to lots of different events, meeting lots of different people, reaching out. Lots of times you're at a table with a bunch of people and everybody's kind of talking about the weather, but nobody really is ready to step up and say, hey, tell me about yourself and your business. And again, asking other people about their interest, their business, themselves is a great way to break the ice.
Right. So is there, have you used any tools to help keep everything organized in your database in terms of, making sure that you are, establishing those relationships? Because the first time you meet with somebody, you want to go deeper into that relationship. You want to make sure that you follow up with them and so forth, right? So how have you managed that?
Well, I learned about a thing called a CRM.
Yes.
Actually, probably just when I got started. I like spreadsheets, I like numbers, and the very, very old school way of tracking things. I knew that there were these programs out there that did some of this, but I genuinely had to implement something as this business started to take off because I could not manage it. I can't deal with it. I can't remember, etc. So my first introduction was just, hey, here's an advanced spreadsheet that has a bunch of cool things. Then the whole, I like to dive into whatever I kind of get passionate about. So I started learning more about it, and the amazing number of things that these services or these programs can do. Everything from just sending out emails. You start out with, I want to send an email to a certain group of people. Okay, that's fine. Then a lot of people will hear about nurturing. So do I have to go and send out an email every month myself? Or is there a system that can actually do that for me? And if I pre-craft it, then the fact that I can have 2 years worth of a plan or a relationship development that happens without me having to think about it. And there's nothing wrong with that. Sometimes people think, well, it's kind of cold. I've already got this done. It's being sent out. And I suppose that could be a position you take. But I also look at it as, I'm doing this for my clients too, because I can't physically offer that personally one-on-one, but the ability to keep in touch, to have my clients, offer value and service to them through an automated system is incredible. And then when you tie in things like the ability to do phone, voicemails, texting, everybody's probably had the experience with the bots, right. the government press 9 here and that kind of thing. From a business standpoint, I get it. They save a lot of money on having those. Personally, I hate them. But there's a time and a place. And I think nowadays I've kind of come along to the little chatbots or the help, the little blue button in the corner, so to speak, where I can talk to somebody, get some immediate answers if I want. I shouldn't say somebody. I can talk to something and get some immediate answers. But then the ability for me to say, you know what, I need more than that, and then be transferred to a human. That's a huge thing for business, in my opinion. And a lot of people I talk to as well. So small businesses, you don't have time to be on the phone and doing your business and managing, etc. So if you can have a system that looks after some of the basics and lets you deal with the things that only you can deal with, it's incredibly more efficient for your business and necessary, I would say. Certainly if you're going to scale or grow it all, I don't know how you do it without nowadays.
That's right. And I think with the conversational AI chatbots that are now acting as customer service reps, companies are really taking this at scale, and it's so doable even for a smaller sized business.
Yeah.
So using technology to your benefit is extremely paramount when it comes to building your brand and promoting yourself and keeping on top of certain things that allow you to close more deals.
Yeah. And you can have a lot of fun with it too.
Oh yeah.
Like I didn't realize, and it's ever changing, but there's different tones, there's different voices, there's different personalities, and you can have a lot of fun with those kind of things. I've had conversations with the bots, and you can try and trick them sometimes, see if they'll answer things differently or funny. You can get different accents. Those are kind of like the filters on your phone. You can play with different things. But I've also been remarkably impressed, weekly almost, it improves, at how helpful they can be. They are trained on massive amounts of data. And in my mind, there's nothing wrong with that, because it just makes them more efficient in helping me, like giving me what I want or need. And then there's the circumstances where it gets beyond what it can handle. And that's when it diverts into, a live call or something like that. But yeah, we're getting to the point where in some cases, it's hard to discern that you're not dealing with a human, and that's okay in my mind.
Right.
In certain circumstances.
Yeah, I mean, I think that up to some extent, it certainly helps the business, and especially for businesses that have smaller teams that cannot support a large
solopreneurs.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I think it's extremely useful for them, and I think any business that is not taking advantage of AI is going to be left behind.
Yeah.
It's just the nature of how things are evolving right now.
Yeah. You can either be scared of it, curse it, or embrace it. There is no standing on the sidelines.
That's true. Yeah. And with regards to your, obviously you have the Top of Mind Gifts website. How has that been working out for you in terms of acquiring new clientele and sharing your information online? Well,
I had to find a good company to do this. Shameless plug for 2Web. They did an awesome job. And
well, thank you.
I've also, when I first started, I was asking people too, and I had very positive feedback. So over all the networking I've done, I'm very comfortable now with the fact that I can direct people to the website and be confident that that's a positive experience for them. So that's great. I've also learned a lot more as far as SEO and your different marketing, social media outreach, Google algorithms, and all this kind of stuff, which changes daily. And having a good website and it designed properly is more and more. You can't just build a website and think you're done. Nowadays, it's just the landscape is changing too fast. So you need to have something, but you have to also stay on top of it. And in the case of the businesses that can benefit from social media or advertising and things like that to drive content to their website, you need to have the whole flow, everything set up so that the experience from start to finish can translate into sales ultimately.
That's right. Yeah. And I find that, with certain, you were talking about CRMs earlier, and with systems that you have in place right now, you can really track based on your messaging of, let's say you send out a message to a certain number of people, you can see how many people have actually visited your website and engaged with your content, and see what kind of content is working well for your business too.
Down to an incredible level.
Yes, exactly.
I didn't even know that there were certain levels of not just a click, but an open, it actually got pinged and all these kind of things. There's more data out there available than certainly I will ever use, but there's some pretty smart marketing people out there that can analyze it and come up with some pretty impressive insight into your business and what you're doing right and wrong and all that kind of stuff.
That's right, yeah. I mean, in order to be successful in business, you have to really know your customer, right? And by tracking and understanding what your customer behavior is, what leads them to having a relationship with you and becoming your client is extremely important. You can track those behaviors and you can basically model those for the success of your sales strategy, right?
Yeah.
So,
well, nowadays with AI especially, you can take that one step further. So
right.
You've got, I won't go to the length of saying, learning, self-learning, although there is some of that, but you learn about your customer, you learn about what's working, what isn't, but then you take that and turn around and implement it to make it more effective. And on an individual basis, even you can say, well, this client liked this profile likes this. So I'm going to go out and target these types of people with this kind of information. And it's incredibly more effective that way too. And I would say virtually impossible to have done in the past. Humans individually just don't have the capability to process that much data. So AI, like a lot of people I've talked to, it's a tool.
Yeah.
If you use it for better, for worse, if you embrace it or you don't, it is what you make it out to be. But it, like you said, it's not going anywhere. So
that's true.
Yeah,
that's true. Well, Dean, do you recommend any books that you found really useful or any content that would be useful for the audience to relate to?
That's a loaded question. I don't think because I'm in the gifting business, I'll make a plug for kind of the pioneer in my specific thing, which was John Rulin and his book, Giftology.
Right.
Because that philosophically really, I guess, embodies what we do and why. When I say we, like what my company and other people like myself do and why. So that's a nice short read. I'd encourage anybody to do that. From there, I don't know if I'd have any specific book. There's just so many out there on so many layers. There's marketing and strategy. There's personality. There's relationship. There's the art of networking.
Yes.
There's all kinds of things, and books on CRM right behind you here. Lots of books on CRM and tech and all that kind of stuff. So I think you should be reading because you can't stop learning, but at the same time, that you pretty much can find something to read on any topic you're interested in, and everything will help your business. So keep educating yourself.
Right. So, Dean, if you were to go back 10 years, what advice would you give to your younger self?
Oh boy. Well, one thing, being the optimist that I am, is there are good things in business and there are bad things in business. So don't assume. It's not wrong to trust people or to believe things, but don't take everything at face value. I would say you have to recognize that not everybody has the same interest or vested interest in your success. And, there's people that do things for a lot of different reasons. So be smart, if you will. And kind of along the lines with that is don't presume, positive or negative. I've had people that I thought were extremely rude, and it turns out, their mother-in-law died. And I don't know that. I can understand in retrospect, but don't presume that you know what's going on, why it's going on. And with that in mind, you never know when things happen down the road. People will come back, and somebody that you thought never would be a client all of a sudden becomes a client. Sometimes they even become a better client than they would have otherwise.
Right. What you've just stated is actually very deep, and I want to actually.
Sorry.
No, I mean it's actually a very important point as well, because I've been in business for over 20 years, and you come across a lot of different kinds of people.
Yep.
You meet lots of different kinds of people that have different interests, and it's hard to know what the character of the individual is until it's tested through time. Mm-hmm. And it can be very toxic to be involved with someone that can actually have a negative impact, right, on your business, mentally as well, and so forth. So I would actually ask you, because you do a lot of networking, have you thought of a way to kind of screen through some of these personalities that you want to be associated with, that you want to do business with?
It may sound corny, but we have instincts.
Yes.
And, you hear people say, well, go with your gut. There is something to that. And it's not necessarily the same for any two people, but I know some of the best relationships I have, I felt it, right? When we clicked, whatever you want to call it, and those become very successful. Similarly, there's ones where in your head, in your heart, that something's just not right, and you should abide by that too. You can't force those kind of things to become. You can't change them really, for the most part. So, I would say, is there like a formula for it? Probably not. But the human nature side is important. That's my phone. I'm just going to stop it. Probably somebody wanting to network with me. Yeah. I'm not sure. Is that where we were at?
Yeah. No, I mean, you were talking about the gut feeling and the instinct, right, that we have.
And I mean, there's reputation too. Typically, if you hear from one person, that's something. But if you hear from 2 or 3 or 5 or 10 positive things about an individual, there's reputation and things like that as well. And there is something to be said for it. That's not always the case, but there's always a catch, or I guess a second position. Not sure what you'd call it.
I'm actually so glad you brought up reputation, because this is something that is very important that we find, like when I'm working with clients or even with our own company, right? It is so important that you have a positive reputation in the business community. And, sometimes you come across difficult clients where, it becomes a bit of a challenge and you have to part ways. But it's how you part ways that actually has a profound impact on your reputation as well.
Yes.
So I think that, reputation is something that you cannot compromise. And even with, people that you don't get along with, you want to make sure that you're not burning bridges.
Yeah.
That's been my experience. But,
100%.
I'm sure you can relate to that too, is these days, people are researching you online, they're Googling your name, they're Googling your business.
Yeah.
So it's so important to have a strong reputation and to actually invest in building a strong reputation as well.
Yeah.
By building your credibility, getting the right kind of testimonials in place, getting the right kind of positive feedback in place.
Yeah.
And if there's any negative feedback, addressing that negative feedback, in the earliest manner is extremely critical. So,
well, the sad thing is, as human beings, we tend to believe the worst very easily. So one person that is mad at you and maybe even just making things up can do more damage than 100 people that are saying, oh, no, that's not the case. Because we always wonder, well, maybe, what if? And it's funny with the gifting side of it, I've talked in a number of different ways. The best client or the best return on investment in a relationship is what I call a raving fan or an advocate. Right. Not just somebody that will refer you, not just a happy client, somebody that will go out of their way to actually defend you in a case like that. The second most important or influential client is the exact opposite end, and that's the one that hates you. They can have more impact, let's say, on your business than anybody other than your raving fan. And so dealing with those people, kind of exceptional customer service. I heard one person say, and it was kind of an interesting piece of advice. And he said, if somebody's mad about something, you need to be twice as mad. And I was like, what do you mean? And he said, well, if they say, I spent a lot of time on the phone waiting, you say, absolutely you did. It's horrible that you had to wait that long. I would be really mad if I had to wait that long. Mm-hmm. And it kind of, they go, oh, yeah, okay, you get me. And, or, I ordered this product and it wasn't delivered and blah, blah, blah. And, you should expect better service than that. And that whole reverse psychology side of it can turn somebody, and I've made mistakes. I've had people that have been unhappy with situations. And my goal has always been to deliver 110%. I mean, cliche, you say it, but I want somebody, in a sense, that's had a problem with me to be happy more so than anybody else, because that creates that reputation. Everybody's going to make mistakes, but if you can be known for fixing your mistakes, to be relied on in the worst situations, everything else is gravy. That's true. So true. So true.
Dean, it's been such a pleasure to have you on the podcast today. I've actually learned so much today in this conversation, and I'm actually glad we did this podcast. I know we've been kind of meaning to schedule this for a while. Mm-hmm. So I really appreciate you coming by and getting this podcast done. I'm sure the audience will love to, hear the thoughts and the insights that we've discussed.
Yeah.
Where can people find out more about you?
Well, I have this lovely website, topofmindgifts.ca, and there's lots of information on there. Maybe the most important thing is the contact information, because I do tons of one-to-ones. I love meeting people. Like I said, I don't think there's a relationship that can't be valuable at some point. And I've had some very weird connections that I would never think would ever amount to anything that have actually been very valuable. So anybody that wants to connect, reach out. Happy to talk and share. If anybody wants to, I'm not going to say coach networking, but if you want to know about groups and places to begin and resources and things like that, happy to share those as well. Share what insight I've had from them. I can work internationally, so I've expanded a lot that way. And if there's people that can work virtually or can benefit from outside of their direct city or location, I've got lots of great connections there, and that's improving and changing almost weekly. So, I would say that's the best way to reach me, and probably some of the biggest services or offers I can make to people.
Sounds good, Dean. We'll include the links to your website as well as your contact information in this podcast.
Sure.
Again, thank you so much for coming.
Thank you. Pleasure being here.
Excellent.
All right. That's a wrap. And we're done.
Thanks for listening to Sask Entrepreneurs. If you enjoyed today's episode, be sure to follow, subscribe, and share it with someone who needs a spark of inspiration. To catch more stories and lessons learned from Saskatchewan's business leaders, visit SaskEntrepreneurs.com. Until next time, keep building, keep growing, and keep Saskatchewan strong. Ciao.